All right. Good morning. It's good to be with you guys. We are ending worship a little early because we have a special treat. We're going to try to Skype in with Amy Druck. She's on staff here at the Mile High Vineyard. She oversees all of our missions and justice here. And she's in Haiti right now with Convoy of Hope. And so we wanted to be able to talk with her and see how she's experiencing her time in Haiti right now with Convoy. So, Rick, do we have Amy? What? We're calling her right now. So some of you guys might be wondering, what is Convoy of Hope? Convoy of Hope is an organization that helps with disaster relief. They are the first on the ground when something awful happens all over the world. So that could be here in the United States. It could be, in Japan. It can be all over the world. They are meeting people in the midst of crisis, maybe when there's a hurricane or some type of destruction. And in general, they're continuing to feed children and work with communities to rebuild after destruction has come and hit a place. They are incredible. They're able to take, if you donate to them, one of your dollars, and I think they say maybe $6 or $7 they turn it into, but we've researched it. They turn it into a lot more than that in regards to food and all the different supplies they can bring to these different areas. So they're just really, really good at what they do. Actually, last night I was just talking with Brian right here. Brian, you want to wave your hand? He's going to come up in a minute. He works with Convoy. And he was saying just last night they were on the news, just on secular media, it's really giving a shout out to Convoy of Hope and how effective they are. So we are really excited. We as a church work with them. Actually, we're getting ready to they do this thing called One Day to Feed the World, where you give 1 day of your wage to Convoy. And so our church actually is getting ready to participate in that next weekend. And it's amazing because when you give to them, you're sort of preemptively giving to an organization that is already going to be there and take care of things when it happens. Because a lot of times when stuff happens, you're like, what do we do? How do we help? How do we get there? But Convoy is there already. So you're already making a decision to be with them. And there's different trips you can take with them to be able to work on the ground. And that's where Amy is. So hopefully are we getting her? No? We're not going to get her? Oh, I really wanted to see my friend. I'm that's all right. Yeah, maybe we'll try her later. Well, in lieu of that, we do have a video that we can watch if we can't talk with Amy. It's kind of hard, right? We're trying to Skype with someone in a country where things don't always work in the same way that they do here. So could you guys, Rick, could you play the video that we've got ready? Cool. What's that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, they're probably back there switching, right? Because they were in mode to make a phone call. Now we're trying to do a video. No Amy or no video? Oh, man. Okay. I did actually used to be an opera singer, so I could try something. All right, I'll do it, only because this is really awkward, and now I feel like I have to. Oh, never mind.
Today I want to share with you the story of Satota and her son. Recently, Satota graduated from our Women's Empowerment Program in Ethiopia. While enrolled in the program, Convoy of Hope taught her valuable skills and equipped her with the tools and know-how to start her own business. And as you will see, the results are nothing short of inspiring.
My life has been very hard here in Ethiopia. I used to have a boyfriend here, and I got pregnant. He doesn't want me to keep the baby. He wants me to abort the baby. I didn't agree with his idea. I want to keep the baby, and he doesn't want the baby. My trouble starts from there. After I refused to abort the baby, he started bringing other women to our house, and he would sleep with them in front of me. He took away my money, and he wanted to kick me out of the house. ጥብቅ ታሪክን ምናምን ነገር I give birth. After that.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to watch that either. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. Well, this is Brian McLeese. And Brian, I just asked him, I said, Brian, what exactly do you do? Because I get to see Brian at all these events, and he comes and hangs out at our church sometimes. He said he is the relational representative for Convoy, which I thought describes him so well. He's one of the most kind people I have ever met. No, you really are. You're very, very kind. I love being in his presence and getting to be with him, and he does a great job of advocating for Convoy. So, Brian, tell us a little bit more about Convoy.
I think Becca did a good job of advocating for Convoy. So, the big idea is we just try to trust Jesus, that he still multiplies resources like the little boy's lunch. It started really small. A man who was a journalist took food in the back of his pickup truck to a poor area in Northern California and just began sharing food, saying, you know, God loves you, and there's a church right up the street that loves you too. That's 20 years ago. This year we're celebrating the fact that Convoy has been able to mobilize churches in disaster response, but also areas where there's chronic poverty through strategic partner resourcing. So we've been able to pray with 64 million people in 20 years, all through mobilizing churches. And Convoy of Hope's just the ghost in the machine, if you will, enabling churches to be present on the worst day of some people's lives. So I'm wearing my pink today because nice all of that. Camo. Yeah, and camo. Yeah. Got it both going on. Yeah, fashion, fupa. But anyway, about 400 corporations have all signed off that their goods and services can be used by local churches to demonstrate the gospel. Or Convoy doesn't partner with them. So it's Quaker Oats, Bass Pro, FedEx, on and on. The National Breast Cancer Foundation now partners with Convoy of Hope, and they raise millions of dollars through their partnerships so that when a woman comes to our outreach, if she needs treatment, has no insurance, no matter what the treatment, she'll never get a bill. And all of that to point to Jesus. Can we pray with you right now? So I just wanted to say thank you for your heart as a generation. I just see so many ways that you guys are influencing the culture for compassion. The women's empowerment piece that we almost got to see this morning was dreamed up by somebody who's 24, and Harvard is now replicating her model, and USAID is re-upping the grant because somebody in their 20s said, I want to make a difference, and let's do it this way. So thanks for thinking of us and dreaming with us that we could actually eradicate hunger in our lifetime. Did you know that if we just took the money that we spend on pet food as a nation, I have pets, I love pets. Do you love pets? If we just keep feeding our pets, but also take the same amount, we could eradicate world hunger as a nation. So God bless you guys.
Thanks, Brian. Great. Thank you so much, Brian. You guys can check out his booth in the back. All right. We're going to bring Luke back up here. Now the fun part comes back. Check out. He's got the Olaf here. I feel like you are like
Hello.
A bundle of fun.
I have 5 pets because I have 5 children.
Oh my gosh.
Just to let you know.
That sounds awful.
Is that bad? I don't know.
I mean, not the children part, but the
They're
pets.
not streaming this right now. I can say whatever I want.
Okay.
So, hi.
Hi. All right. We got some more prizes to give away, huh?
Does anybody want some free stuff? Well, so do I. Okay. What'd you bring me? Nothing? A cup of water? All right.
That they've already drank out of.
Yeah. So what are we doing?
We're doing prizes.
Okay. Oh, hey.
How late did someone stay up?
So yeah, who stayed up the latest last night? I'm just kind of curious. If you think you stayed up really already, 12:45.
12:45?
Young child, stay seated.
Oh,
Anybody
we got one
else?
longer. We got one longer.
Yeah.
Mike was over that. One.
You're getting closer. Keep going.
3.
3. Oh, 3? Seriously? Anybody else do 3? You did 3?
4 or 5 right
How
here.
about 3:05?
No, 4.
4?
And you're still here in the front row.
Both of you
really?
together? Were you
Did you have
talking?
a lot of caffeine today? Yeah, caffeine. Wow.
Are you speaking English right now? Because it's hard to understand what you're saying. You're talking like 4 a.m. English, which is like, yeah. So did you really 4 a.m.? Well, we have a gift for you.
Yeah.
Here, go get this immediately.
Yeah.
You need this for the day. All right.
Yeah.
And okay, so you want to hold this for
Yeah,
me?
I'd
Thank you.
be happy to
Hey,
help.
do you guys like our scarves?
Oh,
Yeah.
imagine-
Thank you. I like your scarf.
Thanks.
It's pretty cool.
It's
I
a
would never
gift.
wear that, of course, but well, I mean, just I wouldn't look good in it.
It has flowers.
You look
on
really
it.
cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, this is Ola. Do you want to build a snowman?
Do you want to
Anybody? Hey, if you have kids, my kids love this movie. Love
Yes,
it.
they do.
So we have the soundtrack, and I hate it because I have heard it so often. But Olaf is awesome. If you like Olaf, say what? Dang. Okay. So who is here and who did not bring your regular teddy bear sleep buddy? Okay. All right.
Do you have
Is
a
that
pillow?
your husband? Oh, good answer. All right. So if you didn't bring your little pal, stand up. Right here. There's it. All right. I'm just going to be really selective here. You really want Olaf? Okay, hold on. What are you willing to do for Olaf? Really? All right, come right here, right now. We're just. What is your name? Hey, everybody, say hi, Cherish. All right, come here. Let's do this. We want it. We want it.
You want actions?
I want everything. Yes, I'll hold the mic and you do the actions.
Okay. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. Tip. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
Yes. There you go. All right. So is Casey here? Casey Corum?
He's
The
back
Casey
there.
Corum?
Yeah.
Where's
He's
he at?
back here.
Yeah, where?
Over there by
Casey, if
Michael.
you need a worship leader to
Yeah.
join you, teapot, yes.
Good.
Yeah, so what are we going to do for this?
We talked about
I forgot.
something, and I forget what we said too.
Yeah.
We have to make a prize up right now.
We're
on
making it
game.
up as we go right now in my mind. It's working.
Let's see. Oh, that's right. We talked about how our brains didn't turn on until
Yes.
later.
So who likes candy?
Yeah. Okay. I really want to see someone leg
I wanna do
wrestle.
s- yeah, we have
I
to
wanna
make 'em do
I want a
something.
competition or
Who
something.
can do? Who's a break dancer in here? This
Dance
is-
competition. Okay.
Any Beanie B boys or B
Who
girls?
is willing to dance for this box of candy?
Who can do the worm?
Oh, that guy over here.
Dude, if
One-
you do the worm right here, this is yours.
All right. I mean, you raised your hand. You sort of
Yeah.
have to do it now.
All right. That was a horrible. Give him more than that. He
Oh,
needs
we need
more.
some good music. Wait. You can't go
Motivation.
yet.
Yeah. Do
Can
we
we
have
get
any
some, like-
music?
They're looking at me like, oh, Becca, we only have like mellow.
Yeah.
I need something like rockin'.
We need something like. Oh, you do? Get up
Oh,
here.
get up here.
Right now, worm girl. All right. Uh-oh, it's getting real. She's taking off her. Whoa. Her sweat. All right. So here's how it's gonna go down. That's okay. Who's gonna go first? All right, go ahead. All right, hey, come on, stand right here.
You just have to go by cheers.
Here's what we're gonna do. Okay, music off. All right. So those. What is your name? Brandon. Braden. All those who think Braden won, make some noise. That's pretty good. And what is your name? Season. Anybody who thinks Season won? I don't know.
It sounded the same to me.
Yeah.
I felt like there were more girls in the second one.
Let's do it. Let's do it again.
guys
All
wanna
right.
share
All
it?
right. Right here. Right here.
Okay.
Right here. It's your call. I don't know. I want to hurt your feelings.
I think you guys need to divide it between the two
Yeah.
of you. Pick your favorite candy. That was too close.
Yes,
Too close
yes.
to Sal. All right.
Seriously, standing ovation. Standing ovation.
Woo!
We
Yes.
hats off
It takes
to you.
real courage. Think
I,
about it. If they can risk like that here, how can they risk for Jesus?
I know.
It's going to be
seriously.
amazing.
I did the
It's gonna
worm
be
once,
awesome.
and then I didn't walk for a week. It was
I
awesome.
know, that looked painful.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
a couple
moving on.
announcements real quick. Has anybody downloaded our social media app? You have. Are you guys using it? Here's what I want you to do. If you have a phone that was created in the last 5 years, please pull it out right now. Okay? And here's what's going on. The Cause Conference is live streaming. All right? So right now you should tweet to all of your friends and tell them, get online right now. The Cause Conference is going down. Okay? That's what you need to type. Are you typing it?
Let's do it.
With that voice too. Okay? We also have, so you can download it on the App Store if you do not have it, but tweet to everybody. Hashtag is hashtag cause2live4. I think it's up there. Yeah, there you go. And then one other thing I want to mention is there are a bunch of booths out there, and there is a Multiply Vineyard booth, for instance, that has hacky sacks. Does anybody like hacky? Yeah, so after this, hang out over there, and there's other booths. You can get information, and we'd love to connect with you and just talk to you about the things that are going on in the Vineyard movement, which is great. And then lastly, there's a change in the Saturday schedule, which is up here. And if you notice, the last session is going to end tomorrow at 5 p.m. because of your crazy blizzard 3 inches. And we want to respect you Californians and get you home, okay? So please, plan on being here, but the outreaches that we had planned before, we're not going to be doing, okay? So we'll end at 5.
Cool. All right, I have a couple quick announcements. I wanted to clarify, we have spiritual direction going on all day today. If you happen to sign up for one of those slots, what we need you to do is to go back to the kids' lobby. So if you'll see all the signs towards our kids area. Go back to that lobby 5 minutes before your appointment and stand there, and your spiritual director will come out and say your name, and that's how you'll meet them. If you don't get there 5 minutes before, you're gonna miss your session, and then you can't make it up. So be there on time. And also, this is sort of like another prize, but there's one open slot today with Jim, one of our spiritual directors, at 3 p.m. So is there anyone here who feels like, I really want to sit and have someone talk to me about how they're experiencing God right now? Anyone? How come? This is an exciting prize, guys. This is like why you're here at the conference. Yeah. I'm like, right here. Okay. Yeah. You just need to run back and sign up to be with Jim at 3 p.m. today. Sweet. All right, now all the slots are full. So make sure you guys are there for that part. And then one last thing. We have workshops going on this afternoon as well. Make sure that let me see. What does this say? Write these down. Write down your workshop and your location. Are they behind me? Oh, right here. There. I'm like, how do I write it down? I don't have a pen. So anyways, right here are all the workshops. Make sure you write them down and write down the room number or whatever room it says at the end in bold. And then after this session and lunch and everything, you can go and check those out.
Are you writing these things down right now? Come on.
He's writing them down, huh?
See, I love Vineyard conferences because it's like, hey, we're starting at 9. Just kidding, 9:30. Hey, we're going to write some things down. Just kidding, we're not. So write those down. We don't want you to miss them, and they're great opportunities to grow and to learn about the subjects being covered up there.
Yep, lots of things going on. And then one last thing before we bring Jay up. I'm going to be your mom one more time and just say, you really need to drink a lot of water while you're here. So some of you might be like, I have a headache and I'm tired and I feel like I have chapped lips. It is like, seriously, because of the elevation in Colorado, it sucks out all of your water in you and you get dehydrated really fast. You do. And with the weather being this dry, even me who I live here, it's definitely affecting me as well. So seriously, drink water till you feel like you have to pee all the time. I'm serious. Drink lots and lots of water. Like, fill up your water bottles. We've got them in the back. So there you go.
So if you've been peeing a lot,
you're doing well.
You're
and
doing
if you
good.
haven't, you need to drink some water.
Yes.
Drink a lot of water. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so now we're going to bring Jay up here. He's going to be sharing with us again this morning. Let's get him up for Jay Pathick.
Good morning. Good morning. Did you sleep well? Yeah. Or not. Those of you who didn't answer. One thing really quick, you may or may not know this, but it is a real privilege that we have Casey Coram here with us. I don't know if you know that. And if you are from a Vineyard Church, you've probably seen Casey's songs. You just didn't maybe know, because I don't know how many of you actually pay attention to like the little words in the bottom of the screen during worship. That actually gives you the details of the song, if you've never noticed that. And Casey has been just such a gift to our movement in his writing and his leading. And so Casey brought CDs with him. He actually wasn't going to talk about this, so I decided to do it for him. So if you would like to buy a CD from Casey, he's going to have those back there for, I think we said $10. Yeah. And that's well worth it. That is well worth it for just even your own spiritual formation, your growth. So you should buy one of those and do that today. Are you going to do that? Okay, she is. She wants one, so she'll be there for you, Casey. Okay. Well, this morning I'm going to talk to us as practically as I possibly can about something that's very important to me, and frankly, I think it's important for your own spiritual formation and really, well, the hope of our cities and what it is that God wants to do in this generation. So I want to talk about something that usually makes people nervous and anxious and tends to make people feel bad. I don't know if you knew this, but the best way to motivate people, like the way that you can motivate people the quickest and with the greatest amount of effort, is through guilt, shame, and fear. They are high motivators. That's why churches specialize in it. Because it's very powerful in getting people to do things. However, guilt, shame, and fear, as they are highly motivating, often are not very long-lasting. If you're motivated by guilt or shame or fear, it usually will make you do something quickly, but not make you do something over a long period of time. And one of the easiest ways to make people feel bad in church or in communities of faith is to talk about the E word, which is commonly called evangelism. It's the easiest way to make people feel bad because you can just start talking about how people are desperate and far from God all around you. They don't know who Jesus is and what it is to have life with Him. What are you doing to rescue people from the flames of hell? And right now, imagine all of your friends burning in eternal fire, saying, "Oh, Gino, why didn't you tell me?" So go get them. If any of you were raised in church, you probably received some form of that message at some point in your life, right? And it's very effective at making you feel really, really bad. You can fill up the front with people that feel bad about the fact that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Anyone ever felt that before? Some of you have? Okay. And it does motivate us, and then often we will even read books and get training seminars on sharing our faith. And there have been, wow, it just got brighter. I don't know what just happened. Did you do that? Or am I like having a stroke? Okay. I just want to make sure. Someone call the paramedics. I think I'm having a stroke. No, it's the lights. Okay. You then go into training seminars that coach you in how to do various random things. Have any of you ever done tracks? Ever done tracks? You know what tracks are? If you don't know what a track is, get excited. I'm about to tell you about one. They're little booklets that have been made to try to kind of convince people they should give their life to Jesus. Now, I think these are well-intentioned things. They usually have steps that help you think about what it is to encounter life with Jesus. I was a server for a number of years. That's how that was the job I had when we moved to plant the church, and it was what I did through college. I waited tables. And servers are likely targets. They're perfect targets for tracks. Most servers don't want to serve on Sundays, first and foremost because they're harassed by church people, and second, church people tip like crap. So, P.S., you're in my city. So when you go to lunch, tip your servers well. Okay? So anyway, you can do whatever you want in your city. You're in my city. Tip your servers today. Anyway, and so as a server, they're likely targets for tracks, and we in the place where I served had a board that we would stick the tracks. So it was kind of it was like a game, really. Someone would usually come running in the back kitchen and go, I got another one of these things. I got another one. And you pin them up. And I can remember one had, it was a story of a girl in high school dies in a car accident, and it ends with her, standing in the middle of flames and says, don't be like her. Pray this prayer today. I'm glad we can laugh about this because it's actually pretty awkward, isn't it? The servers just realized how ridiculous, just crazy this whole thing was. So, we had like a board of them. I remember as a server once getting one. And I got one and got like a 10% tip. And I've heard this logic, by the way, where people say, well, God only gets 10%, so you're not going to get more than that. And anyway, so I got this track with my 10% tip, and I chased them into the parking lot and said, you don't know this, but I love and follow Jesus. You didn't even take the time to talk to me. You tipped me like crap and gave me this, and I took the money that they had given me, like the equivalent they had done in a credit card. I think it was like $2. And I said, you can have your $2 back and never do that again, ever. You're giving a bad witness to people. I felt good. Anyway, so that's I don't know if, I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying how it felt. And so that's a weird thing, right? And I don't know if any of you have ever participated in that. Now, here's where it's weird. God works in any of this stuff. I've met people that have encountered Jesus through tracks, right? I mean, so I don't know. God can do whatever he wants, but I Ever heard that? That's a good quote, except for it's probably not Assisi's. Assisi was he was a rabid evangelist. When you read about his life, he would go into towns and preach the gospel on the edge of the town, invest in monasteries and places. It is a reaction to pain and fear and awkwardness. Frankly, that also lacks what I want to talk about today, integrity. Both things lack integrity. One version is I'm talking about things in a way that isn't really who I am. And the other is I'm hiding things that are who I really am. I'm not sharing the whole of who I am and what Jesus has done in my life. Both lack integrity. It's just different forms of lacking integrity. And listen, with no guilt, no fear, no shame, right now, let me just say this as clear as I can. The world around you is desperate to find life in Jesus. Desperate. Everyone around you is a vacuum for worship, and they are trying to find a way to live a life that's worthwhile. At the bottom of every beer bottle and at the end of every sexual relationship, with every new dollar that they earn and the new junk that they buy, they are seeking purpose in life that is found solely in Jesus Christ. And this message that we believe in, though it meets the needs of people's hearts, requires articulation. You must speak of who Jesus is and what it is to have life with Him. The world is depending on it. So how do you do this, right? I mean, how do we find a way to live with integrity? And be the kind of people that are being transformed by Jesus to where it permeates the life that we live without trying to put on some kind of weird outfit, jacket, or also sort of being undercover. You know, I'm just looking for an opportunity. I'm a spy for Jesus. Don't want anybody to know. Both seem very strange, don't they? They're both like frankly, integrity means that whoever you are out there is who you should be in here. And whoever you are here is who you should be out there. If you're broken out there, be broken in here. And if you love Jesus in here, love Jesus out there. Learn what it is to become who you are. So I want to speak as practically as I can. I'm going to give you a series of small points that hopefully will just sound intuitive to you. Like they'll just sound like what it is to just be who you are. Isn't it strange that we have to be trained to take masks off? We have to learn how to actually be disciples in Jesus with the whole of who we are everywhere we go. We almost have to learn that because sometimes we've just pieced together a life that doesn't really live from the center of who we are. Because frankly, and this will be the theme of everything we'll talk about, frankly, I don't have to teach you to share what you love. You already do that. It is the most natural and intuitive thing to do with our lives, is to share what we love. Who's here has seen a great movie recently? If you've seen Interstellar, you've seen a great movie recently. What a great film. I saw Interstellar just this last week because someone on our staff said, Jay, have you seen Interstellar? You're going to love it. I went, oh my goodness. I've been wanting to see that. I actually left staff meeting and went and saw it. I had forgotten it had come out. I was so excited to see a new Christopher Nolan film. It is a great film. And literally, within 24 hours, I had texted friends that I know love films the way I do, and I had texted them, whatever you're doing right now is not as important as seeing Interstellar. Send. Leave whatever you're doing and go see this film, right? I mean, I did it. Anybody been to a great restaurant lately? Like restaurant? Do we have any Chipotle evangelists? Yeah, we got a few. Okay. I remember when Chipotle came out. Do you remember when it just kind of burst on the scene and it was like everyone was talking about Chipotle? You can go get a burrito that's like a small child and put it into your body. it was like this amazing thing, right? Like people were so excited, and it's sort of like fast food. It happens really quickly. I mean, it's like all happening right in front of you, and it is so good, right? You remember how big Chipotle fans? Some of you are like, Qdoba. Anyway, but we all know it's Chipotle. But now here's a question. It's really simple. It's a really simple thing. I went and saw Interstellar this week, and I walked out like genuinely impacted by this film. I think it was a beautiful film. Now, here's what's interesting to note. There was no one standing outside the door saying, "Did you enjoy the film today?" I did enjoy the film. Then listen, it's incumbent upon you to tell at least 10 of your friends about Interstellar. If you don't, you will have betrayed this experience. Do you understand that the world is depending on you? No one did that. No one did that. No one needed to do that. Because it's the most natural thing in the world to share what you love with people you love. You would actually, if you did that to me, it would make me not want to do it. Somehow it would make it weird and awkward. I'd be like, am I doing it right? I don't know, right? Like it would get strange. Why does it get so hard when it comes to our life with Jesus to just share what we love? It really just comes down to, if we know we're being impacted by Jesus presently, and we love people and we love God, it should be the most natural thing in the world to speak about the life that we have in Him. Frankly, it's so natural that we've had to work hard to make it weird. We've made it weird and made it hard, and we've created pressure when there simply need not be any. So as simply as I can say it, in this little bit of time, I want to challenge us to figure out how to share what we love with the whole of who we are. So I'm going to give you a few simple points that might deconstruct and free you up to be the kind of person that speaks, okay? So simple point one. This is really simple. It's so simple that you shouldn't have to say it. But it's focus on Jesus. When you speak, when you live, demonstrate and live out a life of following Jesus. Talk just about Jesus. Refuse to talk about anything but Jesus. See, when you start to talk about the life that you have with Jesus, there's a number of other things that sound like Jesus that aren't Jesus. Like church isn't Jesus. Christianity is not Jesus. It's not. Morality is not Jesus. Dead Sea Scrolls are not Jesus. None of these things are Jesus. Religion is not Jesus. It's amazing how quickly, when you talk to people, because they've also been trained, will start talking about things that aren't Jesus. Like if you say, gosh, I love Jesus, what do you think about Jesus? Which, by the way, you're doing today on the phone, right? When you do that, it's amazing how quickly people talk about something else. Oh, I don't know what I think about church. Yeah, I don't know what I think about church either, but that's not what we were talking about. I'm talking about Jesus. Well, I mean, I'm not sure what I think about Christianity. Yeah, me neither. It's pretty weird. Christianity is weird, guys. I mean, it is. Yeah, there's a lot to think about and how Jesus interacts with Christianity. But what if we just talked about Jesus? Well, what about the Crusades? I don't know. I don't know about the Crusades. Do you know about the Crusades? How do you know about the Crusades? I just know about Jesus. The Apostle Paul says, when I was with you, I resolved to know nothing but Christ and Him crucified. When I was with you, I resolved to know nothing but Christ and Him crucified. I am willing to give away anything except Jesus. I'll give away all the other stuff. I'll give away church. I'll give away Christianity. Frankly, church doesn't make sense without Jesus. Right? Like, what are we doing here right now? This is weird, what we're doing right now. Like, many of you flew in to, like, sit in a room, sing songs to a wall, and listen to a guy yap endlessly. For what? Why are you doing this of your own free will? I would hope it's Jesus. I would hope it's because you've been impacted by Him and His kingdom. And frankly, we get confused and we argue about all kinds of things. Argue about nothing, discuss nothing but Jesus. This is a really good exercise to try to make it so you don't even use the word Christian, Christianity, church, or religion. Just try to not use those words for 1 month and see if you can still talk about your life. And if you can't, remember the words of the Apostle Paul, when I was with you, I resolved to know nothing but Christ and Him crucified. Simple question. How did Jesus evangelize the disciples? Have you thought of that before? How did Jesus evangelize the disciples? Have you ever thought about that? How did He do that? When, maybe a different question. Follow up. When were they the evangelies? Do you remember where it says, and they went from being the evangelies to the disciples? Remember that verse? Yeah, me neither. It's not there. That's why you don't remember. You're like, I don't remember. No, it doesn't exist. I made it up. They never went from the evangelies to the disciples. They were always disciples. Most people will discover life with Jesus along the way. Isn't that what you're doing? I think that's probably what you're doing. You discover life with Jesus along the way, and frankly, people are drawn to Jesus for any number of different reasons, and then they begin to discover who He is and what He's really like. That's the story of the disciples. They're drawn to Jesus because He's a great teacher, for example. He's a miracle worker. Some even began to believe He was a prophet. But very few actually thought of Jesus as the Messiah and the Savior of the world. Frankly, I'm not even sure that the disciples knew what the heck was going on till He rose from the dead. Do you? I mean, when you read the narrative, they seem really clueless every single page. But yet, they were drawn to Jesus for any number of reasons. When I talk to people, they'll often say, well, I think Jesus was a great teacher. You ever heard somebody say that? That's usually a cue for good Christian apologists to argue with them. I would like to suggest that you shouldn't argue. I think it's pretty cool that people think Jesus is a great teacher. I love to say, that is great news. What about His teaching do you like? 99% of the time they go, I don't know. I learned that in a Philosophy 101 class, and I'm parroting it. I don't even know any of the teaching of Jesus. Most people don't know any of the teaching of Jesus. I mean, the New Testament, you could make a decent argument, I think a good argument. It's the most shaping document of the Western world. And yet most people that live in the Western world have not read the New Testament. They've not read the teaching of Jesus and those that followed Him. And I just bring that up. Why wouldn't you read the New Testament? Why wouldn't you read the teaching of Jesus? Which part of His teaching are you applying to your life and seeing it change you? I agree, He's a great teacher. His teaching is so good, it's worth applying to your life, and it will change you. John chapter 7, Jesus says, if anyone does the things that I have been saying, they will know that I am from God. Meaning, try on His teaching, and you will figure out who He really is. Doesn't that just set you free right now? To just think, I'm allowed to meet people wherever they are and however they're thinking about Jesus and start from there. That's how Jesus did it. And most people, their understandings of Jesus are simply misunderstandings. They've never actually taken a good look at Jesus. And so as I talk about Jesus with people, which is like all the time, often I'll say, what part of his teaching? They'll say, I don't know. I'll go, well, you should take a look at him, because if you get a look at Jesus, I hope you know this. If you get a look at Jesus, he'll mess your whole life up. He is unlike anyone that you've ever met or ever known. He is entirely unique. And he stands above every religion that's ever been written, including Christianity. And he offers a life that is unimaginable if you begin to follow him. Focus only on Jesus. Speak of Jesus. Now, as soon as I say that, that probably creates a problem for you, because it's hard to just focus on Jesus, because I'm not sure how much material you have on Jesus. You might have a lot of material on Christianity or church or the morals of Christianity, and I just took all that away from you. Don't talk about that. Talk about Jesus. That would be my second point, is share his stories. And share your story in Jesus. Share stories. People like stories, don't they? Don't you like stories? That's why you like movies. You know, you like stories. I don't know what your favorite movie is. Do you have a favorite movie? I wonder why you like that movie. There's something about the story that compels you, right? That draws you in. Jesus shared stories. He did it all the time. He loved sharing stories. And even the way we understand who Jesus is from stories. Right? Like much of the Western world, we major on the Apostle Paul because we like him to take those stories and turn them into thoughts. But frankly, even those thoughts are fixed in a story. Our scriptures are stories. Everything we believe fits a narrative. The Bible isn't just a book of religious thoughts. It's a book of stories, narrative about how God has shaped human history. And we find ourselves in that story. People love stories. I have a Hindu friend that I'd spent many years talking with Jesus about, and after many years of us talking about Jesus and thinking about the scriptures, one day he said to me, he said, you call this a religious book, the Bible. It's not a religious book. It's a history book. We have lots of religious books in Hinduism, but you don't have a religious book. It doesn't tell you what to do and how to do it. It's a story, a unique story about a unique people, that in this story you're supposed to find your own. Share the stories of Jesus. What are your favorite stories of Jesus, and what would it look like for you to share those? Just to talk about them with people. Have you ever noticed how annoying Jesus is in this sense in the Gospels? Like, when people ask him a question, he tells a story. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. Like, you've ever just tried that. Like someone says, you know, I'm gay. Am I going to hell? Oh, I do have your attention now, right? Like you go, what's he going to say next? I don't know what I would say if you just say something about, you know, and then the love and the accepting and then changing and the heaven and it's not about and. I watch people do this all the time. It's like, but God, and then we're all sinners, and then the love in Jesus. What? What was that? That's really weird. Right? Because you can tell the stakes are high. You don't know what to do. I have a bunch of thoughts rattling around in my mind. You know, there's moments where Jesus has these moments. I remember being on a plane, and I was in a conversation with a guy about Jesus. In the middle of this conversation, he was a nice Christian guy, and I was trying to persuade him that it didn't matter if he was a Christian, he should know and love and follow Jesus. And catch the irony. Anyway, so we're in the middle of that. In the middle of that argument, somebody from over the chairs, I could tell someone was listening in, so I look back, and there she is with her face. Have you ever been on a plane recently? Like, so close. Everything's too close. And her face is pressed against the chairs, listening. And I noticed her, and she is backed up. I said, you can be a part of the conversation. So, okay. So she's leaning over the chairs like this, listening. So I was drawing some things, and we were looking at scriptures. In the middle of that, she just said, I have a question, just in the middle. Am I going to hell because I'm gay? What if you're a lesbian? So I said, well, let me tell you a story. It's a story about Jesus. Jesus is at a party. He was at a lot of parties. And it's all these really great religious people. And they're all trying to impress Jesus. Because that's what you do. If you're a religious person, you want to impress Jesus. And so they're all trying to impress Jesus, so it's a really fancy party. In the middle of the party, a lesbian walks in. And she's not just any lesbian. She's like one that everybody knows around town. She's kind of in the parades and everything. And she busts into the party, and in the middle of the party, it's really awkward, she runs over to Jesus, falls at his feet, and begins to weep. And she starts to wash his feet with her hair. And it's silent. It's really awkward. Everybody just stands there awkward. And I said to her, what do you think Jesus did? And she paused and she said, he told her to leave. I said, that's a good guess, but that's not what he did. Without missing a beat, he defended her and actually made an argument that she understood grace and love and who he was better than anyone else in the room. Because he could tell that they were judging her in their hearts. And he found her worship more beautiful than what anyone else was doing in the room. I said, so really there's only one question for you. Do you want to know Jesus? And she leaned forward and started to cry, and I leaned forward and started to cry. And my buddy Bob started to cry. Do you know, that's a real story, by the way. I took some liberties. She's not a lesbian in the story, but that's effectively what's happening. Now, you see how a story says something different than a series of statements? What's your favorite stories about Jesus, and how often do you tell them? If you don't tell them very often, why not? I love telling stories and then asking people, what do you think happened? Why do you think that happened? What do you think that says about Jesus? Is that interesting to you? Again, most people are biblically illiterate and they don't know the Gospels. They don't understand how magnificent this man Jesus is, and frankly, how controversial he is. And most people, when I ask, who do you think Jesus argued with the most in the Bible? Who do you think he was always in opposition with? Who do you think got upset with him? They usually say something like, I don't know, like political people, immoral people. You know the answer, right? Religious people. That's who he's mostly arguing with. And I tell stories about that. I'll just tell stories about the different interactions Jesus has with religious people. How he says that it doesn't matter how hard you're trying or whether you look on the outside. It's whether you'll come to me with all you are from the inside and allow me to wash you and change you and transform you. I mean, do you understand that most people don't know that's actually the good news, the gospel that we have in Jesus? You know that, right? Most people have a misunderstanding of who he is and what it is to know him. Share stories. Tell stories about Jesus. Even tell the stories he tells. He's got good ones. If you've not told or found yourself trying to tell the story of the prodigal son, what a beautiful story. You tell that story, it's really confusing to people. It's probably just as confusing as when he told it. Tell stories. Do you like telling stories? Learn to be a great storyteller. Tell stories of you where you're a mess and Jesus has encountered you. There is power in sharing stories. Third, learn how to listen. Be a better listener. Learn how to hear what God is already doing in people's lives. John chapter 5, Jesus says, I'm working because my Father is working. And the Father loves the Son and shows him everything he's doing. God is already at work in every person that doesn't know him right now. It's happening all the time, everywhere around you. The question is, can you ask the right questions? Can you engage people at the substance of their life in such a way that you can draw to attention these different places and how Jesus is working in their life? Let me just make this really basic. Let's think of this in levels. There's 3 levels to really how we communicate. The first level is the most shallow level. It's the way we always communicate, which is usually around what we're experiencing together, right? So if you were to talk to someone in a grocery store or in a coffee shop or someone you just met at a party, you say something like, "Whoa, it's so cold out there." Right? You say something like that. Like, "Ooh, nice shoes, man," or how did you end up here? Who do you know? Oh, so we're at so-and-so's birthday party. So how do you know so-and-so, right? You try to draw from commonality within what is within sight, right? Isn't that what you do? It's just basic social. You maybe didn't know you do that. That's what you do. If you go deeper, one more layer, you say something like, "And what do you do for a living? Where are you from?" Right? You do that. You're socially conditioned to do these kinds of things. Now, most people, that's the end of anything they talk about. The third level of depth is about motivation and desire, right? So if somebody says, "I'm a doctor," something you can ask is, why are you a doctor? What made you want to be a doctor? Now, listen to me. This is crazy to think about, but do you know how many people go years in their life without anybody asking them a deep question? Years. Without anybody asking, why do you do that? So you're a father. What are you learning about being a dad? How has that changed you? Did you see how that's different? Oh, so you're studying at CU to environmental science. Why? What do you dream for? What do you hope for? Most of the time, people freeze. They go, "I'm hoping to get a job." Why? Why do you want a job in that? Why that? What do you hope for? What's the most interesting thing that can happen with that? Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm asking questions to listen. There's a great book by a guy named Conrad Gempf called Jesus Asked. And he asks a simple question, which is, why did Jesus ask more questions than he gave answers? Have you noticed that in the Gospels? He asks more questions. Usually when you ask Jesus a question, he asks one back. He very rarely answers. And then if he does answer, he answers in a story in a way that nobody knows what the heck's going on. Jesus is interested in drawing the heart of a person to the surface. Now, if we believe that God is working in the depths of who people are, usually all we have to do is ask a series of questions to discover ways that we see God working in their life. And frankly, this is a great way to just love people. When you show an interest in who they are and who they're becoming. See, the greatest challenge to us sharing our faith is often not that we're not brave or that we don't know what to say or that we don't have a story to tell. It's that we just live such shallow lives. We live shallow with others and we live shallow even within church life. We never really get to the substance of who we're becoming, what we hope for, our greatest regrets and hopes and fears. We don't ever talk about that. We never allow our hearts to be present to how we're really living. And people are desperate to live deep lives. They're desperate. If you can learn how to live with depth and begin to engage people with depth, you will change their life. You will find yourself talking about Jesus because Jesus usually isn't in your life around the layer of the Broncos. Or the layer of like what band you like. He lives in the layer of who you're becoming and what you hope for and what your losses are. Isn't that where he lives? Like when Jesus speaks to you, he probably just doesn't speak to you about like what kind of car you should drive. Does he? Some of you are like, I hope I've been asking him. Yeah, well, that's not where he lives. He lives at the place of who you're becoming, of what your desires are, what your losses are. That's where he lives. And we don't know how to access that often, and then we also can't see how he's working in people around us. I could give you 100 stories like this because I'm trying to live this way with people. It's with my neighbor I guess that was 2 weeks ago. We're just sitting on his porch talking. I just walked over and started talking to him, and he's talking about his kids, and he's a great dad. And I said, I notice you are a great dad. This is a guy that's been really hurt by church. I've learned this from other things. You're a great dad. Tell me about your learning about being a dad. He goes, well, I'm learning how to put him to bed at night. Takes like 10 trips. And I went, well, no, yeah, that's something you're learning, right? See, people even kind of resist this process because they're not used to it, right? The gears don't shift very easy. And I said, but how do you think you're a different dad than your dad? What have you picked up from your dad? And then what are some things that you're choosing to do differently? And he thought a minute. He goes, I don't really know. He thought, and he said, I guess, when I think about my dad, I think my dad did the best he knew how to do. But what I'm learning is there's just power in being with my kids, right? They just want to be with me. And I'm realizing as they get older, they're not going to want to be with me as much. So I'm trying to figure out how to just be with them more. And I said, and what's the challenges now? What are you learning? He goes, well, I'm learning that I'm really impatient, and they irritate me. But if I can manage that, if I can push through that, I really connect to them. I start to see who they're becoming. And I said, so tell me about your kids. Who are they becoming? And he da-da-da-da. So then he asked me, what are you learning? What are you learning? Because polite society requires that you reciprocate. Eventually, someone will say, oh yeah, you're here. Who are you? I'm telling you, that's just how it works. Eventually, someone will say that. And I said, Mike, what's really interesting about what you have to say? And P.S., when I say this, it's because it's actually what I'm observing. I'm not trying to do this. It's I said, what's interesting is everything you're saying is stuff I'm trying to learn, but I'm learning it through kind of a different angle. Everything you're saying that you're learning as a father is the way I'm learning how God actually sees me. And every moment I have when I learn as a father, I realize that's why Jesus said we're to think about God as our Father. All the dots connect for me. And I wonder if that's what would connect for you. I know you've had all this weird stuff with church, but I think that's how God is relating with you. I wonder how that would change things. And you look forward, he goes, man, you're really good at this. You're really deep, And I said, I'm really, and I'm being honest with you right now. That is what I'm learning. Every moment I have with my kids, I realize I have this moment where I think, could it be that God sees me this way? And it changes things in me. It makes me pray different. It makes me live different. Now, here's a question for you. Would someone like to write a tract on how being a father leads you to Jesus? Would anyone like to write the 4 steps for that? I'm just if you live deeply with Jesus and you live deeply with people, you'll talk about Jesus. You're not going to have to figure out how. You just will. And trust me, people are desperate to live with depth. They're desperate. They want someone to tell them there's something more than just working their job, making money, and trying to figure out how to have more sex and have it better. People know that's not all there is, but that's all that they have. And so they're going to keep living that way until someone shows them that there's a way to live with more. Number 4, don't argue. Don't ever argue. Don't ever argue. Do not ever argue. If you want to argue, don't. If you find yourself being defensive about your life with Jesus or what it is to know God, that's your issue. And grow through it. If you ever argue, it's because you're insecure, or because you're caught, or there's a crisscross in your life. By the way, we're doing a little marriage counseling right now as I say this. If you argue, it's because you're insecure. And you need to grow up so that you can become the person that you're supposed to be in Jesus. See, I know this in my marriage, right? You know, like if I'm coming home and I know I'm late for like dinner because whatever, I'm spacey or whatever. And I come in and Danielle goes, "Oh, so where you been?" When I'm like, well, you know, there's lots of traffic and there was snow and then the people and the phone call and the crisis because I'm a pastor. See, as soon as I start talking like that, you know why I argue? It's because I kind of don't really know what I think, and I know she's kind of right. And it's exposing the fact I'm insecure. When you argue, it's because you're insecure. When someone asks you a question you don't know the answer to, be humble. Be humble. God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. Somebody says, well, if God's so good, then why do terrible things happen in the world? And you go, well, you know, because free will and Jesus and robots, and you're not a robot, and he loves, so there. That's your issue. That's you. That's your problem. If you don't know, let's all get really honest. Does anyone really know the answer to that question all the way to your spine? You really don't. You know what's really impressive is when you can look at someone and go, that is really hard. There is stuff in my life that I wonder, why God? Why like this? Why did that person die? I don't really know. I have some thoughts in my mind. I have some ways that I'm learning how to grow through that. But I really don't know. I don't think there's a simple answer to that question. I mean, do you think anyone would hear you say that and just go, well, you're dumb. I'm not going to believe. Here's the facts. If you don't know and you still believe, it's probably likely they don't need to know that in order to believe. Right? I mean, you're not smart enough to answer everybody's questions. You're just not. And ultimately, behind every question is a problem of the heart. Most questions people ask are betraying their own experience and their own fears and their own needs. That's really what they're asking for help with. Don't ever, ever argue. Ever. Don't ever argue. Be humble. I had a philosophy professor. I studied philosophy. I love philosophy. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And I studied philosophy, and my favorite professor did symbolic logic, ethics, and rhetoric. Amazing guy. And after years in his classes, I'd always take his classes because he was really bright, and he was an atheist, and he would just come at me. We'd be in a lecture time, and he would go, "I bet the Pope has something to say." He'd call me the Pope. And he'd argue with me and fight with me and try and make me look dumb, and I'd just laugh, I just thought it was funny. And because frankly, he's just a lot smarter than me. I mean, not like a little bit, like a lot. And a lot quicker, and he obviously thought things out in a way I hadn't. And I remember after 4 years of this, we became friends because I liked him. And after 4 years of this, I'm sitting in his office hours one day, and he said, "Jay, I have a question for you. I have lots of Christian-type church people in my classes, and I go at them, and then they get upset, and eventually they either leave the class, or they kind of pick a fight, or they kind of shut up, or whatever." He says, "And you just keep talking about Jesus and bringing stuff up, and I just cut you into little pieces, and you just laugh, and then you show up and do it again." He said, "I don't understand, and you're bright. You're like a bright guy. I can tell it's not just you don't understand what's happening." He said, "So what is that? I don't get what's going on, because I feel like you should be mad." And I said, "Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. There's times I feel pretty insecure with you. It makes me feel awkward. I just restrain that because I realize that's about me. But the truth is, I just know this is true. I actually know Jesus. So, I don't know. I mean, I'd have nothing to be afraid of, and all you do is help me grow. when I don't know something that you're asking me, I just go learn. A life verse for me has been Philemon 6, which Paul says, be active in sharing your faith so that you would have a full understanding of every good thing you have in Christ Jesus. Share your faith so that you learn your faith. When you share your faith and people beat you up and you don't know what to say, guess what? You're going to learn. People ask you about how do you know the scriptures are real. Right now, some of you have read C.S. Lewis stuff, or you've read like Evidence That Demands a Verdict or some book that you don't remember because frankly, you don't care. But as soon as someone you care about pushes you on how you trust the scriptures, guess what? You're going to care. You'll actually learn it. The reason we learn things is because we're desperate to learn them. We don't learn things because we're supposed to. Trust me, you're not 4 arguments away from learning how to share your faith. Just start talking about Jesus and let people beat you to a pulp and you'll grow. You'll grow. And you have nothing to be afraid of. You have nothing to be afraid of. For this is real. And if you know him, you know him. And if you're insecure, grow up. And he'll lead you to do that. So I said that to him. I said, I just know this is true. And he goes, well, I mean, but that means you don't have it all working in your mind. I go, well, I'm growing. I don't know. I'm learning how to do this. And I said, it would be like if you said to me, hey, Jay, I don't believe you're married to Danielle. I said, well, I am, so I don't know. And if you said, well, then what's your favorite cereal? I said, I'm not sure. Ha! You're not married to her. No, that's dumb. I'll just go ask her. Like, I'll figure it out, right? Like, I don't need to feel insecure. Like, if you said to me, hey, that's a nice red sweatshirt you're wearing, I wouldn't go, how dare you? I'm offended. This is not red. That would be weird. That means something's wrong with me. I would instead just say, wow, this is red, huh? Yeah, it's red. Nice red sweatshirt. You see anything else red in the room? I mean, like, I would think, something's wrong with you, like that, and, maybe I can help you see better, right? You understand that the reason we're insecure, or the reason we argue is because we're insecure, and if you're insecure, grow up. If there's things about God you don't know, see that as an opportunity to grow. What a grace. What an opportunity. You have nothing to be afraid of. Never, ever argue. And when you feel tempted to argue, when you feel tempted to be defensive, see that as a spot of immaturity and insecurity. It's okay. Just grow up. You can learn and grow. Does that set you free a little? This is how you grow. You grow by engaging people. There's people around. Your classroom is around you all the time. Opportunities to grow in your life with Jesus. Last one I'll say. We could do this all day. I'll say last one because I think we want to minister. I think some of you need to be like just set free from oppression and fear. So we're going to pray for that. So if you're feeling that start to happen to you, we're going to do that in a powerful way in a second. But last one would just be this. Demonstration is persuasion. Demonstration is persuasion. Demonstrate the gospel by how you operate and how you live, and then speak about it. Demonstration is persuasion. You don't have to persuade people based on like having really fancy, nice things to say. Just be the kind of person that lives with peace and hope and grace and humility, and that'll be as persuasive as anything you've ever done. Demonstration is persuasion. Now, for those of us that like to talk or think of ourselves as like spiritually mature, it requires humility to realize that who you are and the way that you come off is more valuable than anything you say. Dallas Willard, the late Dallas Willard, who I love deeply, said once, for those of us who are speakers or leaders, he said, years from now, no one will remember anything you said, but they'll remember what it was like to be with you. And that's true. I think about all the sermons I've heard in my life, or the leaders I've been with. I might be able to pull out like a sentence or two or a word or two or a thought, but usually I just remember what it was like to hear them, the way it made me feel, if it brought freedom or hope or courage or whatever, right? Isn't that how you really experience things in the end? Most of us will never be quoted. We're just not smart enough. But we can demonstrate the kingdom. We can demonstrate what it's like to be a person captured by Jesus. I learned this the hard way. I was studying philosophy because I wanted to argue with people and tell them about Jesus. And I was getting pretty good at it. I remember we went to an all-night coffee shop on this campus of Ohio State called Insomnia. And it was all the kind of riffraff type people on campus, people with studs around their wrists and their neck. And I remember there was one guy who, he had combat boots on, big dude. He was like 6'6" guy, big guy. And he's sitting there, and I went over and said, hey, you guys just hanging out? You want to talk about Jesus? And I'm with a friend of mine, new believer, who started finding Jesus, was living in the dorms with me. And he sits with me as we engage this guy. And this guy starts talking to me, and we're going back and forth, and I am just like, frankly, I'm just a lot quicker than him. My mind's working faster, So I'm just like running circles around him and just like, and he's like, if that's good for you, then that's good for you, and that's not for me. And he's kind of doing the relativistic thing. So I start breaking him down. I go, so that means I can just do whatever I want, you do whatever you want, and, we're going to be fine. He goes, yeah. I go, well, that doesn't work. He's like, no, it works. I go, well, you know what? Let's try it on for a minute. Let's just try it on. We're like sitting there at the table. I said, I have always wondered, I think it would feel good to like pee on people. I just like that. And he goes, good for you, man. And I said, and I stood up and I unzipped my fly. I said, I'm going to pee on you. And the guy goes, if you pee on me, I will kill you. And I said, see, your philosophy of life doesn't work. Apparently there are transcendent rules in the universe that we hold each other accountable for. And, we're going back and forth. So we do that for like another 35 minutes. He gets frustrated, walks away. And we're walking back to our dorm, me and this guy that I brought who's a really new believer, and I'm feeling pretty good about myself, I ran that guy in circles. And he goes, he's just very quiet. And I'm like recounting, and I'm like, did you see that guy's face? I said I was going to pee on him. Oh my God. We got, man, I'm feeling good. And he's just quiet. He's just walking. And he says, hey, can I be really honest with you about how that went? I said, yeah. He goes, I think that was terrible what just happened in there. And I go, what? It was awesome. We destroyed that guy. He goes, I think that was terrible. He says, I'm sick to my stomach about what I witnessed you doing to that guy. I went, what? He's like a moron. I proved that he was a moron. I demonstrated it. He goes, Jay, that didn't feel anything like Jesus to me. That was terrible. I hated that. I hated every minute of that. I hated the way you talked to him. I hated the way he looked at you. I hated the way I feel. I feel gross. I feel horrible. And I went, well, and all I'm thinking is, well, you're just kind of weak. I don't know. Suck it up, weirdo. And I'm like, come on, man. And he just wouldn't let go. He's like, I think that was the worst I've ever seen you. I'm like really disappointed. You were a lot smarter than that guy, and you used it to belittle him, and that's not okay. That is not okay. You did not leave that guy with an impression of who Jesus is. It was embarrassing. I'm embarrassed that I was with you. We got back to the dorm, and I was, my head spinning. I did everything I could to, and he was right. I had won the persuasive battle, but I had demonstrated something that didn't look at all like Jesus. Demonstration is persuasion. When you show people what it's like. Over years, I've really been trying to work on this, because, I see it in Jesus. He has a way of showing people what it's like to be with him. That draw them, just about a month ago, we got an email from a guy from years ago who waited tables with Danielle. I'll end with this. And he was a guy I was talking to about Jesus. I go play golf with him, and he just was like, he'd make fun of me. He'd been raised in church. He would just make fun of me all the time and argue with me. And I was doing everything I could not to argue with him because I was trying to learn this lesson, And every time I'd be like, hey, you want to argue? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be kind to him. I'm going to work my way through this with him, but I'm going to stay faithful about Jesus. In there, his brother died, and Danielle came home from work and told me about it. His brother died. I said, I think we should go to the funeral. And we went to the funeral all the way in West Virginia. We lived in Ohio. At the funeral, I just walked up and hugged him and said, I'm so sorry, and I love you, and anything I could do to serve you. And he actually got really agitated and was like, yeah, whatever, man, and whatever. Anyway, and we just stayed faithful to him. And he's one of those guys I felt like God was just working in, and I just wanted to serve and figure out how to be a part of that. Well, here we are. How many years ago is that now? Here we are 15 years later. And I got an email just a month ago where he said, hey, I want you to know, he found us on the info, said, I want you to know I've discovered life with Jesus. And I want you to know, Jay, that the years that you spent just sitting with me, talking about Jesus, they have haunted me. It's like I've just been chased like every day of my life. I just remember standing at the funeral with you and you hugging me, and I just knew that I knew that I knew that Jesus was real. But I just so didn't want it to be true. And I did everything I could to resist it. And he goes, and it's taken this many years for it to wear me down to where I've been humbled to where I could just say yes to Jesus. And he goes, I just want you to know that time in that space you spent was so powerful for me. And you probably never knew it because I was just such a jerk to you. Such a confirmation because, frankly, he's one of those guys I've thought about in my life where I just thought, maybe I just should have gone at him. We have been talking about Jesus a lot, but maybe I just, right before I left, just be like, here's the deal, man. I did. I actually he's one of those guys, and there's probably a dozen or so in my life, but I just thought, I didn't just stab him in the end. I should have done that, And it was just such confirmation to me, Jesus saying, trust the process. Speak of who I am, demonstrate who I am, and trust that I am working. I want this more than you do. Trust the process. And what if there's hundreds of people doing that all over who exude the peace and the strength of the kingdom, that speak of Jesus in a way that's winsome and demonstrate a life that shows that? I think over time, things are going to change. Does this set you free? Do you feel like you can actually talk like the way I'm talking right now? Can you do this? Can you just burn that used car salesman sport coat somewhere? And then also, frankly, Michael said a phrase to me yesterday. Frankly, just buck up, princess. Speak up. Talk about life with Jesus. Open your mouth and be who you really are in a place like this, everywhere you go. And God will grow you. You will learn and change and grow from the center of who you are. He'll strengthen you. And I don't know if you've ever seen people come to know Jesus, actually discover life with Jesus. If you do, your life will be ruined forever. It takes one friend, one neighbor, one coworker, one family member, and you can't help but give your life to this for the rest of your life. Why don't we stand together? For those of you that are coming to my workshop, we'll just continue this conversation. We'll just kind of keep pressing out more components of how this works. But as we finish now, we'll do some things to respond. We're going to worship, but frankly, I just think some of you are just afraid. There's fear, and there's an old thing that needs to just come off of you. I actually think there's a spiritual power to this. I could work out a little theology on this, but just trust me. Paul talks about this. He talks about how there's a demonic power attached to legalism and religion. And some of us who have been raised in things like this, where it was very religious, it was very pressurized, you might not know this, but there's something demonic trying to create fear in you and pressure. And I think you could be set free of that right now. I think you could just break that right off you. There's others of you that are just afraid to open your mouth and speak. Maybe the insecurity of like, gosh, I don't want to look stupid, or I don't, I have good and bad news for you. You probably look stupid all the time now. You just don't know it. So why not have it count for something, right? Like, why not it be about growing? Seriously. I mean, you're not as cool as you think you are ever. Might as well have it be about something worthwhile. So I just want to pray that we break those things off of you. Legalism, fear, and more than that, there's some of you that have been faithfully, actively sharing about Jesus, and it just doesn't seem to land. And there is something about just power. There's just power that can come on you. He can fill you with His Spirit. There's power that can hit you to empower your faithfulness. I had a picture in my mind of like the tinder being dried out, and then just a lightning bolt hitting it, and there's just fire that fills you. Guys like D.L. Moody and Billy Graham speak of an experience like this. They speak of how they had been faithful, and all of a sudden they were just hit with power, and they saw thousands of people crash into the kingdom over their life. Because it is about grace, so it's not just about your intelligence. So you got to be willing, but you also need power. So if you fit any of those categories, could we just pray for you right now? Why don't you step at our church just so we can identify you and come on up right now? Overcoming fear, needing power, or if you just realize, I just default to some legalistic, weird way of talking, let's just break that off you. Let's just allow God to free you right now. And as you even do your phone calls today, I mean, God is going to give power to us to engage people. Okay? So, that's a lot of you. All right. Some of you have a real powerful prophetic gift, and God would have you use that out of places like this. Like you'll just see the heart, the mysteries of people's heart, and that's a great way to have people meet Jesus, that they realize they're seen by God. So if you walk in some level of prophetic gifting too, we'd love to pray for you and ask God to release you out into everywhere you go too. Okay? Michael, you have anything else we should call? Okay. So let's wait on the Lord here. You've been with us this whole time, Lord. I can see you. I can like visibly see you turning people loose in the room. I can just see it. Pressure's just coming off of people.